A very good evening and a warm welcome to yet another edition of Wealthwise with Edelweiss, our webinar series on personal finance with industry experts. Joining us today is Mr. Ravi Gopal Krishnan, the head of equity at Principal Mutual Funds. With over 25 years of experience, he's been a prominent figure in asset management field. With acute sectoral knowledge, he has achieved proficiency in focused stock picking. Today, he joins us to share his views on equity market outlook and sector perspective. Over to you, Mr. Ravi.
Thank you very much. A very warm welcome to everybody, all the participants. As we all know, we are in very unprecedented times. Typically, this is perhaps my fifth bear market, if you would call, a massive correction, fourth or fifth probably, since the last 30 years that I've seen markets. But this has really caught me by surprise. But the fact of the matter is, I think as the world comes to some sort of a normalcy, it might take some time. And I think most of the central banks across the world are actually really working hard towards bringing in the stability in financial markets. And this has led to almost $8 trillion approximately of money being pumped in. Compared to the 2008 crisis, I think there was a much more coordinated effort at that point in time, but quite frankly, that was delayed. This time, I think the learning experience was that each country decided to do it on its own, and hence the response was pretty quick, which is why you saw financial markets not only stabilizing but actually move up quite dramatically in the month of April. Now, obviously, liquidity alone cannot, stabilize markets. I think we need some very good news, either in terms of the control of the virus or, some sort of a discovery of a vaccine, etc. I'll come to that in a bit. But in all of this, I think what we have kind of forgotten, I think that what the markets are undermining is the standoff between Russia and Saudi Arabia, which has led to the oil price correction to multi-year lows. And, this has made a lot of the countries really desperate. And that's the reason why we saw several sovereign wealth funds, even who have invested in India, actually facing large redemptions from their respective governments. And that is the reason why you saw massive FII, outflows in the last 6 weeks or so. The fallout of all this is, naturally, the global economy. I think some economies may have to face the brunt much more than the others. Particularly Europe, I think it was anyway in a very fragile situation. Perhaps, there the economic impact could be much more severe. While US is facing one of the worst crises at this point in time, with the number of deaths actually rising every day. But the fact is that, their economy is extremely solid. And the reason I'm saying that is because just like India, their economy is almost, is a consumption-oriented economy. And typically consumption-oriented economies generally don't face too much of a crisis and generally have the tendency of coming back very quickly. My sense is that India will come out much stronger from this, while the near term, that is the next 1 or 2 quarters, the economic impact is going to be quite severe. Let's not forget, the revenue side is totally gone. GST collection is, perhaps when we see the numbers, I won't be surprised with a very low number this time. At the same time, I think the government has to support the bottom of the pyramid, which is essentially the rural economy, the migrant population, etc., etc., and that's going to cost a lot of money. So our fiscal deficit has got a chance of going for a toss, at least for the next 2 or 3 quarters. And this can put upward pressure on the fiscal deficit. While the world is spending around, I think India does not have there is one criticism that everyone talks about, that India doesn't, unleash that, liquidity just like the world did. unfortunately, our balance sheet does not allow that. We have very limited resources, and that needs to be targeted to the right population, and that's what the government has been very, very clear about. So FY21, in my view, probably there's going to be a massive GDP impact. Maybe, we might see some recovery towards the end of the year, but which can probably help us from not slipping into a negative zone. But I think the verdict is still out there. I spoke about this situation probably, while in the near term may look very, very negative, but the fact is that like I said, India will come out much, much stronger. Now, why? Primarily because I think a lot of the manufacturing is going to shift away from China, into countries like India, Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, etc. And India essentially will see a lot of opportunities in some of, in bringing back manufacturing from China. And that's going to be really big because, our unemployment rate in the last 2 or 3 years had gone up. So this is a good way of bringing back manufacturing into the country. Second, India has already demonstrated its capabilities in various sectors, like pharmaceuticals, for example, chemicals, where it has got a, almost a 20-year track record in terms of manufacturing high quality pharmaceuticals. In terms of specialty chemicals also, I think India's ability or the capability in benzene chemistry or chlorine chemistry is phenomenal when compared to the rest of the world, and being a low cost manufacturer. So it's a deadly combination. So I think India, a lot of manufacturing in these segments are likely to shift towards India. Similarly, in automobiles, where India has actually proven and demonstrated its expertise in terms of being a very efficient and a low cost player. And this is primarily because of the huge and deep auto component ecosystem and infrastructure that India has created over the past 20 years. Last but not the least, it is electronic goods manufacturing. I think the government of India in the last 2 to 3 years has focused on this particular segment, primarily because today India's import of electronic items is far more than its the oil imports. So in order to curtail that, India is giving a lot of incentives for domestic manufacturing. 2 months ago, even before COVID, actually, became a serious issue, India announced a 44,000 crore package to encourage domestic manufacturing of electronics. Now, this means, the consumer goods like washing machines and refrigerators, lighting systems, etc., and also mobile phones, which accounts for a very large component of electronics. So this will, most likely result in huge amount of FDI coming into the country. There is, and because of that, there is a chance of creation of global scale capacities in India, which can create thousands of skilled and semi-skilled jobs, and which in turn will result in boosting our GDP and making it much more stable and sustainable in the foreseeable future. So the long-term positives far outweigh the short-term challenges. The short-term challenges are for real. I mean, I'm not going to, really undermine or underplay, the short-term challenges. It's going to be very, very difficult because, look at our population, and the population breakup. The rural segment, for example. I mean, that is why the government of India is taking so much pain to kind of evacuate or evacuate the harvest. We have just concluded a very highly successful harvest season, the Rabi season. The production is fantastic. So the government has already started evacuating all of those, moving the material to the mandis, so that the farmers are able to sell these proceeds and get ready for the next season, which is the Kharif season, which starts in June. So government is making full effort to take care of that segment. Second is the SME segment, the MSME segment, which is facing a lot of pain because of the liquidity, difficulty in liquidity, demand contraction, etc., etc. Now, these are small, medium-sized companies. They cannot sustain, paying their rentals, paying their labor force, etc. They cannot keep running beyond 1 or 2 months. 1 or 2 months they can still take care of, but if it goes beyond that, it's a big problem for them. So I think the government is perhaps working out on some package to help the MSME sector so that they can take care of the job losses, and mitigate some of those risks. Longer term, as the economy comes out of the significant shock, we will see quite a few businesses coming back quickly. Now, whatever happened has happened, right? I mean, the negativities, the market's already discounted or probably in the process of discounting, perhaps the worst that can come. But at the same time, what we must not forget is there are a lot of businesses that will gain out of this, and that's exactly where the focus has to be. Several of companies, with less leverage, for example, less debt, very strong balance sheet, steady and robust business models, businesses with low competitive intensity. Now, remember, the weaker players are all going to vacate, or they will take at least 2 years to come back. And the stronger players will become much more stronger, right? So I think the focus has to be in identifying some of those companies or set of companies where you find that they themselves are very strong to kind of take care of this next three months or 6 months or whatever, and focus on them, because these are the guys, when the turnaround happens, who are going to come back very, very strongly, because the weaker players would have vacated the space, and hence the competitive intensity would have come down. Pricing power will come back. So I forecast a lot of consolidation, a lot of M&A activities, a shift from unorganized to organized playing out across all segments. There's not a single segment which I cannot think of. So it's going to happen across all segments, whether the stronger businesses will get stronger. So what we did was, during the, couple of weeks ago was, we went into we did a massive exercise to analyze some of these sectors and to identify some of these sectors, to see which are the sectors, for example, can really come back very, very strongly, and how much time it will take. This is not stock price I'm talking about. Stock prices will be extremely volatile. We'll come to that in the later part of the discussion. But right now we are talking about the businesses, how much time each of these businesses could actually take to kind of turn around. For example, what we did was we bucketed all these different sectors into 3 to 6 month time frame, 6 to 12 month time frame, and 12 months and beyond. So from a 3 to 6 months time frame, these are some of the businesses that can actually turn around rather quickly. Consumer staples like FMCG and all those kind of businesses, bearing any supply chain disruption, any massive supply chain disruption. I'm assuming that supply chain becomes more normalized. That sector may not experience any significant impact. Maybe this April to June quarter may be a little negative for them, but I think beyond that they will definitely come back. So that's why I put them in the 3 to 6 month bucket. Similarly, pharmaceutical companies, and healthcare companies, they have been least impacted by the lockdown. The only positive that came out of this is that people are falling less sick. I think eating home food, not going out, not getting exposed to various different viruses, etc. I think people have become very healthy. So I think barring that, I think the healthcare sector will be least impacted in that sense. The third sector is actually agri-chemicals and specialty chemicals. I already touched upon this in my earlier comments, because I believe the rural sector will be the least impacted. And the reason I'm saying that is because if you look at the red, amber and green zones, most of the green zones are in the rural India, because I mean, they're not densely populated. It is scattered, and they live a much healthier life than all of us do. And the government is giving huge support there. So, because the Rabi crop has been very good, a lot of money is in the hands of rural India. So I think, as we enter the Kharif season sometime in June, a lot of demand for agri and agri-chemical products will go up. Similarly, specialty chemicals, which is largely export oriented, whether it is going into global agri or global pharma, like I said, a lot of these Indian chemical companies are extremely good in terms of technology, in terms of experience, in terms of their research, etc., etc. So they again, these are essential commodities. So the demand for that globally is not really going to slow down materially. So I think these are some of the businesses which could come back very quickly. Similarly, telecom is another segment where the impact could be very, very negligible. And finally, logistics in this three to 6 month bucket, because until and unless the logistics situation does not improve, I think it's going to be very difficult for people to move goods and services from one point to the other. Right. So I think, from a 3 to 6 month perspective, these are some of the businesses that can really turn around rather quickly. Moving to the 6 to 12 month bucket. And again, here also, I think banking, financial services and insurance is one segment where things could take slightly longer. And primarily I'm saying that is because some of the components of this particular segment will be hit quite negatively, and I'll come to that. The retail banks, some of the larger banks, I think there is a lot of potential for them to take away market share. I was speaking about market share gains. Primarily because the weaker banks, the smaller banks, who don't have adequate capital, to increase the business, they may end up giving away market share to some of these larger banks, particularly the private banks. On the other hand, the NBFCs who are lending to MSME, which I spoke about, consumer-facing NBFCs lending to commercial vehicles, for example, who have already been under a lot of pressure, I think they will have a fair bit of headwinds because of the slowdown in the economy. Because by the time these guys come back to the market to purchase, it's going to take some time. But here again, some of the best managed companies, for example, a lot of those stocks are down 50% from the top. These are fantastic valuations to look at them. And, the smaller guys will vacate this business. Similarly, from the insurance space, a lot of it's a segment which perhaps may not be impacted beyond 3 to 6 months. So I think the chances of it coming back again are pretty good. So BFSI is one segment in the 6 to 12 month bucket. Auto, for example, again, it's going to take at least 6 months for demand to come back. But four-wheelers and two-wheelers probably have a better chance of coming back in the 6 to 12 month time frame. And one of the main reasons is because if rural India manages to survive this or kind of scrape through this with very limited impact, and if because of the good crop their purchasing power goes up, then I think the auto demand should actually revive, particularly two-wheelers and passenger cars, where we have seen in the last 4 or 5 years, rural India has contributed a lot. In the commercial vehicle segment, I think it'll get most likely hit negatively because they were already in the negative space, and it might take maybe another year for them to kind of revive. Similarly, cement and building materials will also take some time because construction activity and all those will take some time to revive. Retail, particularly the food and grocery part, could largely remain insulated because online channels are still struggling with their logistics. But I think because they are in the they are in the important segment, and The government cannot really stop them. I think the retail businesses could do really well. Other than the discretionary retail businesses like clothing and lifestyle businesses, etc., because they are actually dependent on malls and shopping centers to open, which in my view won't open for the next 4 or 5 months, right? It might take slightly longer for them to come back to normalcy. Similarly, consumer durables, I have put it in the 6 to 12 month bracket because I think again, malls, shopping centers, are a very big component in terms of their ability to kind of sell products. So I think, it might take about 6 to 12 months for them to revive also. From the 12-month plus perspective, this is the longer one, where things can really take long. I think infrastructure is one area. While the government is making a lot of noise in terms of revival of infrastructure, and one of the main reasons why they are doing that is because they want to get the labor on track. So existing infrastructure may revive, but incremental new infrastructure is not going to come back in a hurry, because I think the government's finances are already stretched. So they're not going to really invest too much money on infrastructure. So that's the reason I put it in the 12 months. That one, and real estate. Real estate is the other area which might take longer, because residential real estate anyway was struggling a little bit, before COVID. Now, commercial real estate is also struggling because of people working from home, and IT services already telling people that, we will, get a lot of people to work from home, etc., etc. So there's going to be some pressure there. So in a nutshell, this is a summary of all the sectors, and in terms of how much time some of these sectors will take to come back to some sort of normalcy. Now coming back, to kind of summarize, what should investors do? I think all of you perhaps are really wanting to know that. In summary, the global situation continues to remain uncertain. It continues to remain very, very challenging. Equity markets are perhaps pricing in the worst, maybe discounting most of the negative news. A lot of people ask me, is this the bottom, or have you already seen the bottom? See, the problem is, we look at the equity markets from indices perspective, right? When index makes a bottom, that's when people think that, everything is related to that. But the fact is that typically, I'll tell you from my experience, when the first fall happens, everything falls. Good stocks, bad stocks, everything falls. In the recovery, subsequent whatever recovery, the better positioned stocks actually make some amount of comeback. So you're going to see this volatile period, seriously be there for the next 4 to 6 weeks or even 8 weeks. And as a result of that, you will see the better businesses may not go back to the bottom, while probably, I don't know, the index may still go back to the bottom. So it is not correct to kind of time the market and say, I will go ahead and buy when the market bottoms out, because a lot of the businesses would have already bottomed out, for all you know. So that's the reason, bottom-up stock selection becomes very, very important for people like us. And stock markets, this is something which you all should know. Stock markets generally bottom out much before the economy actually tries and bottoms out. So the economic bottom may be 6 months away, but stock markets will tend to price that much in advance and bottom out much quickly. So in short, this is a very good time to add to equities, and and mainly because there are so many good businesses that are available, at 30, 40, 50% discount from the top. And and it is across market capitalization, whether it is large, mid, or small cap. So I mean, so a lot of people ask me, what should we be doing? What is the right thing to do now? So broadly, there are 3 options one can adopt. Okay, and the first option is don't do anything. Now, most people will choose this option. Why? Because there is so much fear and uncertainty and anxiety all around us. People say, forget about stock market, I'll worry about it later. But the problem is one could end up missing up one of the best opportunities if things do turn around in the next 6 to 9 months. The second option is a lot of people come and tell me, hey, you know what, I don't know where the bottom is. I will wait for the markets to bottom out, even at the risk of paying some amount of premium. I will wait for the recovery to happen and then jump in. Well, surprising part is that a lot of the businesses have already seen the bottom and today they are up 30-40% from the lows. So how do you realize that the markets have already bottomed out, and by the time you kind of decide and go back to the market, it's already moved up? And then, in my experience, investors are never able to get this right, because once markets recover, then they'll say, oh, you know what, I've missed this opportunity. Let me wait for the next correction, which may or may not happen. So, my recommendation is that, this is the good time to increase the equity allocation in case you believe in the long-term wealth creation. And in case you have incremental appetite for mark-to-market losses, I'm still telling you that, if you go ahead and buy, you will still see losses probably, over the next 4 to 6 weeks or 2 months or 3 months. But, if you kind of stagger your investment over the next, say, 1 or 2 months, then hopefully, when things settle down and things starts coming back up again, when you look back 3-5 years later, because, equity investment is all about long term. It's about 3 years and 5 years. If you're looking at anything less than 3 to 5 years, perhaps, you shouldn't even look at equity markets. And history suggests that buying in such market conditions normally would generate, create a lot of wealth from a long-term perspective. So let me end here, and I'm sure you all have a lot of questions, and perhaps open the floor for a very nice interactive Q&A session.
Thank you, Ravi. That was really insightful. We already have a lot of questions that have come in. We'll start. What shall be your advice to investors who have 40 to 50% portfolio in negative as of now?
Right. So like I said, the markets are going to be pretty volatile. A lot of it depends on, what quality of portfolio that investor would have built, etc., right? I don't want to get into that, but I'm making a very general comment here. Yes, losses are across the board, somewhere it's 30, 40, 50, etc. The point is, if you have incremental capital, for example, and if you're not too much worried about incremental mark-to-market losses over the next few months or few weeks, then you should definitely be buying. On the other hand, if you do not have the capacity or the ability to take more losses, I guess it is better to look at the existing portfolio and do some rejig, move into better quality names, etc. I think your financial advisor perhaps will be the best person to provide that micro level solution.
Okay. The next one is, given that the US and certain parts of Europe have opened up for trade, how will it impact the Indian economy?
So, like I said, while the US is gradually opening up, Europe is gradually opening up. Let's not forget that it's not a full-fledged opening up of the economy. It's going to be very gradual. A lot of the Indian businesses, who are looking for exports, for example, I spoke about companies in the chemical space and companies in certain export-oriented like IT, etc. If they're able to open up the economy at a much more faster rate and things normalize, then a lot of those businesses will certainly benefit.
Okay. So one person wants to know which mutual funds should be our top priority in the current scenario.
So I would probably guess that the person is looking at a large cap, mid cap, small cap kind of a distribution, I would imagine. or maybe an equity or debt? I'll answer both. I think for someone who's young and kind of just starting off the block, I think probably a good mix of equity. The proportion of equity should be definitely higher than fixed income right now. You can work through an SIP route so that you kind of average out your costing over a period of time. And SIPs work wonderfully during these kind of times. So I think for people who are looking at investing, who have that appetite for risk, probably the bias should be towards equities at this point in time. If someone is asking about whether it should be large, mid or small as a question, then probably I think the opportunities are across the board. Large caps usually give a lot of stability during these kind of times. So perhaps the volatility there will be a little less. And even during the recovery, typically large caps lead. So maybe you can, anyway look at a multi-cap kind of a product where it is like a 70-30 mix of large and mid and small. So something like that could probably work better.
Great. So Ravi, we have Mother's Day around the corner. So I think this question is related to Mother's Day. So she says, I have two children at the age of 12 and 8 each. I want to invest for their education, but I'm not sure where to start from. Could you tell me how should I invest from a perspective of building an education fund?
Right. So obviously you're looking at 10 years, which is excellent. I mean, history says that over 5, 10, 15-year period, equities perhaps is the best asset class, especially in the times of inflation, etc. It's a great hedge against inflation. And since you are planning for future, creating a corpus for the education of your children, I think it's a fantastic idea to kind of start now so that over the next 10 years or so, when they're ready to go to college or whatever, you will have a nice corpus to kind of invest. So I would say that you start an SIP, in a multi-cap kind of or a large and mid-cap kind of a portfolio. Keep investing over the next 5 or 10 years. That's how you kind of create wealth over a long period of time.
All right. The next one is I'm looking out for creating funds to manage my expenses for the next 6 months. What are the funds I should be looking at?
So, because equity is a long-term game, if you're looking at short-term, perhaps I would advise you not to get into equities because you're for sure going to see a lot of volatility in the coming months. Up to a point that you might, there might be some capital erosion also. So if you have a target in terms of expense, I would kind of stay, which is coming, not 5 years or 10 years, that like the other question, who had an expense which was going to come 10 years later. This is 6 months, so I would recommend the person to kind of stay away from equities, if that was the kind of outlook.
Okay. So the next one is I'm 25 years old and very new to investing. What are the funds I should start investing in given the current market scenario? Right.
This is an excellent question because I think most people realize, and I'm really happy and glad that a lot of people realize that one needs to move away from the traditional FDs and all those kind of things, where the returns are going to not help you, especially to beat inflation in some at some points in time. So I think for a person who's really young, it will be a very good idea for starting an SIP for say 20-25 years. And the kind of funds that the person can invest is a combination of large and mid cap. I will always recommend that because large cap kind of gives you the stability, and mid caps generally give you the alpha opportunities over a longer period of time. So I think either a multi-cap category is perhaps better suited, or even the large, if you want to take slightly more kind of risk, if your risk appetite is slightly more, then the large and mid cap category would be a good place to be in to start your SIP. I think this is an excellent time to start an SIP. I wish when I was 26, somebody had told me to do that.
All right. The next question is, please share some insights on what could be the ideal fund mix considering the current market behavior.
So I would imagine this question is around the large and mid cap and small cap probably, or again, I think, is it connected to the previous question between the debt and equity mix, which I kind of answered, but let me just attempt it once again. So if one is looking at the large, mid and small cap, I think, see, large caps have more stable stream of returns. You know, the volatility there is going to be much lesser on a comparative basis compared to the mid and small cap. Mid and small cap will be extremely volatile. Okay. So honestly, the opportunities today are across market caps. Like I said, they're across industries, they're across sectors, they're across market caps. So it will be good to have a proper mix of maybe large and so supposing you have in case you do not want too much of volatility, then you probably look at maybe even a large cap fund where the equity, the large cap portion is at least 80%. On the other hand, if you have a little bit more appetite for the small and mid cap and more volatility, but you want to kind of take advantage of the growth prospects of India, then a combination of the multi cap perhaps would be good, or even a large and mid cap would be pretty good. I think we lost the moderator for some reason.
Anagha, could you just step in?
Yes. So hi Ravi, I believe we have just Moin is facing some technical glitch over here. So I will take over the next question. A lot of people are asking on specialty chemicals. So they're asking that the valuations are at an all-time high. So is it right for an investor to participate, or should you just wait for the valuations to come down? Also, what could be a good margin of safety?
Okay, so when I talked about specialty chemicals, I see we run a very diversified book, right? Where certain portions of that book is in specialty chemicals. I wouldn't expect individuals to kind of go in and buy specialty chemical stocks because, you're taking extraordinary amount of risk. I think investors should diversify through mutual funds rather than taking direct exposures because the volatility could actually be extremely high, especially focusing on a single sector and trying to play around. While the person who was asked the question is absolutely right. The stocks have gone up. There's been a fair bit of movement up. But at the same time, we still believe that the longer term prospects are very, very good. Can there be correction? Of course, there can be correction. So my recommendation will be not to get into any particular sectoral kind of investment strategy. Rather, look for a more broad and diversified strategy. Within that, you can perhaps have the overweights, etc., etc.
Oh, sorry, Ravi, I got disconnected due to network connectivity.
Yeah.
Apologize. So the last one is, yeah, I'm really sorry, audience, for the network issue. So the next question is, what is your top 10 stocks to pick in the current situation for long term?
I'm afraid I won't be able to answer that question because we are not allowed to speak about individual stocks. Yeah, so I'll pass that. I mean, my portfolio, I mean, the fact sheet is available to everybody. So, one can probably go and have a look there. Of course, there are 60 stocks out there, so one can probably pick up whatever, you know. That's the reason, why we don't pick 10 stocks and we end up picking, a lot more, because, these are, equity investment is all about uncertainty and risk. And you want to mitigate the risk through proper diversification of not only sectors, but also of stocks.
Okay. So the next question, if an investor is fully invested in mid and small cap mutual funds, what should be the strategy if there is no need for capital in near future?
Okay. So again, like I said, the mid and small cap space is an excellent space, primarily because there are a lot of these businesses, which today are quite small and medium in nature. Of course, one has to be very, very careful in terms of, which businesses you are selecting within that portfolio. So you need to be aware in terms of the capabilities of stock selection, etc. But having said that, I think a lot of these businesses, for example, 10 years ago, Britannia was a mid-cap stock, and today it's become a large cap. Similarly, I can rattle off a lot of such names, where mid-cap stocks have actually become large caps. So I think that is the potential of some of those businesses of it becoming large cap. So I think if the person has got an appetite for greater volatility and has got sustainability in terms of long-term investment, I would say at least 4 to 5 years, then I think mid and small cap investment makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Next question is, there is talk that the market is held back because liquidity is infused by government and central bank. Do you think that market will hold, or this will prove as bear market another rally?
So, like I said, volatility is here to stay. Whether we get pushed into a bear market or not, I think these are early days. My sense is that most of the economies around the world will probably recover by the end of the year. We may see 1 or 2 or 3 quarters of, some sort of a slowdown or negative growth. So pretty much 2020 calendar year is pretty much gone. What we need to look at is 21 and 22 and onwards, right? Equity investment is, like I said, all about looking at long term. There will be bouts of volatility which might take the index back, down. It's a very hard thing to even try and predict, market movements. And like I said, timing the market is going to be extremely difficult. Instead, it is better to follow a staggered approach, whereby you invest little by little over the next few weeks. And hopefully, when things stabilize, you will be able to participate on the upside also.
Okay. Next one is, so recently Warren Buffett at his annual meet talked about that this is an unprecedented situation and he is sitting on cash. What would you advise?
So he's right. Obviously, there is going to be a lot of volatile periods over the next, which is why I said, it's better to kind of stagger your investment over the next few months or few weeks, so that, as this entire situation plays out, because see, right now, what is happening is there is no visibility of a cure, right, or a vaccine in sight. But one thing I'm confident about, the entire world is actually working feverishly to kind of find a solution to this. The vaccine perhaps could take much longer, maybe till the end of the year. But before that, there could be certain, solutions or certain medications that could be found, which can mitigate the virus spread or the intensity of the virus. if something like that happens over the next few weeks, I think the markets will, turn around very, very quickly. That's the risk. So while, one can perhaps sit on cash for some point in time, but the problem is that what if something positive happens and the market, would rally significantly. In the same breath, he has also said that, you can invest in S&P 500, their index. So, the reason why he's saying that is he's not able to kind of identify pockets, at least in the US, right, which will probably, one or two, typically he invests in, a few selected segments, right? So perhaps, he's coming from a position that some of those segments are still, are struggling. So maybe a broad-based investment strategy will probably suit in this period of time. So I don't know, whether that is the case, but certainly I think from my perspective, I think we should take a staggered approach to investment over the next few weeks or maybe a couple of months.
Sure. So next question, Ravi, do you advise to start SIP in sector-specific funds like automotive, banking and financial services, and healthcare funds?
Like I said, sector investment, has, see, you're already taking risk in terms of equity. Equity is a risky asset. By taking sectoral bets, you are actually increasing your risk profile even more. Typically, a lot of the sector cycles, the cycles are elongated, which means if you are in a bad cycle, it might take 3 to 4 years. Remember, pharma sector was, in some sort of a bear cycle over the last 3-4 years till the last 2 months. So if you are really, really patient and if your outlook is like 5 years, 10 years, then maybe you can choose any of the, whatever sector that you like and sit on it, provided you understand that sector very well. But otherwise, I would personally say that a well-diversified approach is much better.
Okay. I think we'll just take the last question. This one is, should I create a fund to cushion myself against pay cuts?
I'm not too sure how you would do that because, again, if you're worried about pay cuts, etc., here we are talking about SIPs. So how does that individual will be able to kind of maintain that SIP over a long period of time? Like I said, this is not a short-term game. So you cannot say that I'm going to buy equities as an insurance that, if I get a pay cut, say 3 months from now, it'll start to give me, that amount of cash flow and X amount of cash flow, which will be equal to that cut. It's not going to happen that way because equities are very extremely volatile asset classes. So I wouldn't really look at that option.
All right, great. Thank you, Ravi. It was an immense pleasure to have you on board our platform. Your thoughts and insights on an ideal portfolio were extremely useful. I'm sure that our audience found your expertise of significant value, and they will surely gain from this experience.
Thank you all from Edelweiss for arranging this call and having us on the show. It was indeed a fantastic experience and a lot of pleasure, to have been part of this. Good luck to everybody. Please stay safe and healthy. This is not the time to essentially become too brave. I know there's like a lot of boredom around all of us. We are all sitting at home. But certainly that little bit of patience over the next few weeks will make a lot of difference. So please stay safe, and good luck. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Ravi. Well, definitely patience is the key. Well, to our audience, thank you so much for tuning in, and my apologies for the technical glitch at my end. Well, we look forward to have you join us back again next week. Until then, stay home, stay safe. Thank you.